All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another SPFBOX author interview blitz panel. Today, you think after saying it for all these days, I'd have that down. Today, we've got two new authors for SPFBO 10 that we're going to be interviewing. We've got Sierra on, we have Andrew on. Andrew is sort of a SPFBO vet. Sierra, I was telling you before we went live, it is so good to finally meet you virtually over face to face after knowing each other all these years just online. I was tickled when I saw your name on the SPFBO list. I was like, yes, you go. So even though I'm in it too, I'm so excited to be competing against both of you. For those who don't already know who you are, though, we're going to start just maybe with you, Sierra, and go around and talk a little bit about who you are, what your experience with SPFBO is, whether this is your first year, you've done it before, and then tell us a little bit about the book you entered.
Awesome. Well, my name is Kira Hartford. I am a brand spanking new fantasy author. I entered The House of Starling, which is my debut novel. And oh man, I've already forgotten what all you wanted to hear from me.
Just tell us what it's
I'm
about.
terrible.
It's a good book.
It is essentially a romantic fantasy retelling of Romeo and Juliet, except for less romance, more bloody sword fighting. So, and first in a series. So I kind of leave everyone on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I promise things will only get worse.
It's sort of like if Princess Bride and Romeo and Juliet got together and then
Yes.
made a dark, pushing, grim fantasy book.
Yeah.
This is one of the books that I have actually read for the competition. So I was like,
well, this is like
oh.
more to the book version of The Princess Bride,
Yes,
not the
book
movie version.
Yeah. Love all the sword play though. Whenever there's good, strong sword play in a book, I was like, this person knows what they're talking about.
My husband has helped me a lot. We'll put it that way.
Oh, well, it's good to have you on. And Andrew, it's good to have you back. We did this last year for SPFBO 9, but you've been to
this early
You're
too.
the reason I got into SPFBO. Tell us a little bit about your experience coming back here again.
So this is my third year. I did not intend to enter this one, but then I tripped and fell and wrote a book in January. And so and it happened to be released soon enough that I entered it. So it's been great. It's been a good journey. But so my first year I entered Thrice, Slavic fantasy, Lone Wolf and Cub story. And that one was a semifinalist last year. And then I entered Deathless Beast the year after that, which is epic fantasy, paladins, paladames, and mercenaries. And that one didn't make it very far, but that's life. So this year I entered Quaint Creatures, which is a cozy fantasy about a veterinarian giant who owns a magical pet shop and services dungeons. So his old mentor, who's a lich, has just recently purchased a dungeon, and he needs him to come and inspect it, going back to his old job of inspector, to get it accredited with the city so that he can convince the city to set up like bus stops for heroes to come up to adventure in the dungeon, and lots of hijinks ensue. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's way too
so I
fun.
have to ask, compared to your other two, is this one like a family, all the family can read this one?
Very much so. So I do write clean fantasy. Thrice, you could hand it to a 12-year-old easily. You could hand it to a 14-year-old who's not a reader without batting an eye. Quaint Creatures I read to our 8 and 10-year-old, and it's great. So a non-reader, kid, adult, anybody can read it. I've described it as All Creatures Great and Small meets Pixar's Onward. So that's I mean, that gives you enough of a Venn diagram to know that if you can watch Pixar's Onward, you can read this. Because that's because I mean that's a family movie too, right? It's aimed at the whole family. It tears your heartstrings out, and I'm not tearing heartstrings out, but it is quaint like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to see so much representation this year. Like we've had middle grade authors on, and then we've had super grim dark authors
Mhm.
on, and then we've had military authors on, and then we've got some that are like whole family.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice. It's like there's something for everybody in SPFBO.
Which group were you both in?
Which group?
Which blog?
Oh, let's see. So I'm in
I should
Weatherwax.
have come more prepared for that.
I am in Weatherwax, and Sierra, you are in.
Fantasy
I've
Book
got
Critic.
marks on like
Fantasy
tabs.
Book
Fantasy
Critique is who.
Yeah, FBC.
Yeah, Fantasy Book Critic did mine last year, and their approach is sort of to split up their chunk of 30 to some smaller chunks, like different blogs in their group, and then they get together and they decide as a group who's going to move forward, which I think is a really interesting approach, because then if something isn't necessarily one person's cup of tea, they
Yeah,
can shift
more
it around within
people.
their team to someone else. And they
I already
give
stalked my my reader.
Who's your reader?
really thorough reviews.
She's new this year. I'm like frantically pulling up the information.
Pull out your spreadsheet.
Man.
I've got my spreadsheet up.
See, I'm so new to this whole process. I don't even. I'm like spreadsheet. What?
I got really obsessive the first year, and I built a spreadsheet and found everybody's Goodreads ahead of like the judges, and then put it all down so that I could be super judgy on my own without telling anybody.
Oh man!
And go on the side and look at stuff and say, "Oh, I think this is a contender." Oh, I don't know. We'll see. And I did that, and so then I've done it every year. I'm doing less. I wanted to do more last year, with like trying to analyze whether people's Goodreads went up just by being reviewed, and I gave up. So now I'm keeping it back to basics, so I can just keep an eye on everything and click people, click them off as they disappear, and just watch how it goes. So it's fun.
So Andrew, is that your strategy going into this year again?
I'm doing that. I'm not going to try to analyze if people's Goodreads go up, because it's 300 people. It's too many to try to keep track of, and you actually have to have, you don't have everybody's contact information, so I can't reach out and say, has it improved your Goodreads? And it was just, I was too lazy, and I had books to write. So
I was gonna say I'm way too much at the whim. I'm just like floating. I'm like, whatever.
Honestly, that's one of the best, absolutely best tactics you can take with this competition, or you'll stress yourself out for 3 months straight.
It's terrible, because I've just been, okay, what's going on now? What are we doing? And my entire connection to the whole thing has been through the Facebook group, because I'm not on Twitter, so I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
You can also get involved on Discord. There's a Discord. There's a Discord for everybody. It's more of a, I think it's more of like it's more like an airport that you land in and then leave, but it gets you connected with other people enough that you start finding like-minded people that you're like, oh, I like you, let's hang out. And then you start making friends on the side that you can go off and go into other Discords, and each other and promote each other, and that's what it's a really good tool for.
I need this immediately.
Yeah,
I'm a newbie Discord user, so I'm so old. I'm like,
well, I mean,
newfangled stuff.
my wife hates Discord. I don't mind it. I know some people who prefer Twitter over it because it's just feed, but it's just a forum. It's just a glorified forum of the 90s. So I'm so old that I remember the 90s in forums. So I don't know if you're that old.
Yes, I am.
So it's a chat room, and there's lots of chats. Where it becomes chaotic is there's lots of chats, and people will have conversations over each other, just like a forum. But so that's where it's a little chaotic. There's just a few more like doodads that it does than old school forums. So if you walk in thinking of that, and don't sign up for 40 Discords, because you're only going to use one. You're going to find one or two you use, and then the other ones just keep pinging you, and you're like, I don't want to talk right now. It's a lot of the same people, just different subjects. So don't limit yourself. Don't go diving headfirst into Discord and try to be everything to all people, or you will go mad.
Yeah. So, Kara, how did you come across SPFBO? This is your first year, right?
Yes. Actually, I believe it was your Instagram posts last year. I kept seeing, I was like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. And then I was like, oh, you have to sign up. And then I put a thing, like a reminder on my calendar, and it popped up and I was like, oh, this thing's coming up. I guess I should look into what this is. And then I saw that there was a Facebook group, and the rest is history.
So this is a good example of like a friend and a friend and a friend, because Andrew told me about it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you saw it online. So it's like,
yeah. Like,
we're influencers.
Yeah. Ooh, look at you guys.
Yeah, and I'm back this year a second time too, partially because of Andrew being like, why not? And partially because Katie posted a Twitter post. I got up the morning that the lottery, registrations opened. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to let everybody else do it. And then Katie was like, if you're on the fence about it, just do it.
Do it. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, here I am. Back with Splitting Dawn. We're going to try this again. Oh, so
I guess what was your book that you entered last year? It was
The Vow That Twisted Fate.
Yes.
Year. The first edition, not the fixed extended edition. But it was so good to see Esme's review last year and see all the points that Esme said, could have been stronger, and been like, I fixed so many of these in the expanded version. And I was so happy, because it's like, I don't know. Sometimes the review doesn't have to be 5-star, the book was perfect, for it to be a really good, helpful review. And I think that's one of the things that I really loved about the bloggers, that they take the time to be like, here was what was working, here was what wasn't for me, so that way I can find the right niche of people, for sure. Even if you don't make it to semi-finalists, right, Andrew?
That's true. And I think Esme is reading FBC again this year too.
Nice.
That's good. Yeah.
Yay. Thank you to the bloggers. If
great.
You guys are watching, I know we see a couple pop on from time to time. I cannot imagine having to read as many books in a shorter time. But you guys are amazing. So
even Philip this year is doing a panel read. Wow. Philip did all 30 on his own last year. And this year he does have a team who are going to do the first cut. So was it Bookborn who did it first? Anyway, what they do is a lot of the groups they split it up between 6 people, and each one of them from their 5 or 6 picks one semifinalist, and then the leader of the blog reads all the semifinalists and picks the finalist. And then they have to also read all of the finalists once that comes down. But that really breaks it down.
Big commitment. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to good feedback for sure. Because I'm always, like you said, the 5-star reviews are not always the best reviews. Some of them, some of the 4-star, 3-star give you some better information on how to make your craft better the next time. Yeah. So.
And you can get fans out of 3 stars too.
Yeah.
And Andrew, you're coming back to Before We Go blog this year, right?
Yeah. I was very glad.
Going back to them.
I was very glad. I had my list of 3 that I really didn't want to get into, and 3 I really hoped I got into, and then the rest of them I was indifferent. It's okay. I wouldn't be upset. But I was really glad I got Before We Go blog. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Clearly,
when I got Weatherwax, I adore Esme's reviews, and so I went and was like, oh gosh, I'm in Esme's thing, because I pulled up Esme's introduction post, and that she was like, there's 3 categories that I don't mesh too well with, is my summarized version of what she wrote, and it was like horror / gore, grimdark, and romance. And I was like, she's got my dark epic fantasy romance.
Knowing Esme, I think it's really about that
it's not a true romance in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's where I bet we'll get Kieran back. I bet that it's that pure romance. If it's just romance, that's when she tends to bounce, but she loves romance in her books. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that she gives really objective reviews, which was nice. It's like, okay, good. It doesn't have to make it to semifinals. This is great all around.
Absolutely.
But last year we were talking about how SPFBO 9 finalists were mostly strong character-driven stories. And so all of the panels, we've been going around and introducing main characters. Yeah. So Andrew, while we're trying to bring Kiara back on, would you mind talking about your main character?
So Norik Softstep is a giant. He's an 8-foot tall giant, and he's married to a elf who's centuries older than he is, and they both met on the job. He was a dungeon inspector, and she was a Delver torchbearer. So she would go with hero adventure groups and make sure that they're doing things right, and kind of act as a generalized NPC for them. And they accidentally walked into the room that he was inspecting, or he was doing a checkup for a fire salamander, and the fire salamander torched the entire hero group. And she thought that he had a look of glee in his eye as it happened, but he was actually just looking at her. And now it's been a couple years, and they're married, and they own a pet shop. Norik, kind of laid back guy. You know, if there's any connection between my books, he's about as Jinnit or Joven as they come, which are my main characters from my other 2 series, but much more of a peacemaker and super neutral. I did a lot of in the world building on this one. I tried to make a lot of D&D references without crossing any potential trademark problems. So lots of side references, and so he's not a furbolg, but he is a furbolg. So very neutral character, but also just makes friends with anybody, and that's where the version of me came through. Is as a kid, I was upset that I didn't have more friends. Instead of focusing on the friends I had, extrovert problems. But I put a lot of that in there, that he's kind of obsessed with losing friends and wanting to make friends. And so he assumes that he's more optimistic than I am these days, but pretty darn optimistic. And of course loves pets. So it's definitely for pet lovers.
Oh, so a giant and elf as a couple is very unique. I'm like, yes.
Yep.
And I've got to ask, and I know since it's sort of cozy, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Are there cute pets that are unalived in the book?
Are there cute pets that are unalived? No, there's not. No, I mean there's references to the fact that like his bird is a Stymphalian crane, so made of brass, and he opened his pet shop because he found out that he rescued it from one dungeon, and then went to a dungeon a couple weeks later, and it was in that dungeon too. So he knew that the company he was working for was trafficking animals, and so he ended up whistleblowing, and that's why he got fired, and that's why he now owns a pet shop. And the pet shop is gnome built, is a crafts gnome house. So you keep taking right turns, and you never get to the end of the house. So there's lots of levels. So it's an endless house, which he's converting into a pet shop that is also a rescue site. So it has tons of rooms of the animals that have been rescued from dungeons, whether they'll be rehomed or not, or whether he'll just provide for them. He doesn't know yet. So it's a lot of that. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's malnourished animals that need to have better food.
Oh.
And you feed them, I would hope. All right.
He one of the mysteries is he has to figure out something's going on at the pet feed factory, and he's got to figure out why it's so garbage.
Sounds so adorable.
Yeah,
it's so adorable.
And it's a quick one, and I think the audiobook ended up just shy of 5 hours.
Wow. And this one's got an audiobook too.
Yep. Fastest book I've ever written and fastest audiobook I've ever finished. Yeah.
Do you do your own audiobooks?
I do. Yeah. I'm a narrator for hire. Yeah.
I would be nervous doing my own audiobook.
It's something I want to try, actually. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea. It'll be a new skill that I will unlock.
If you want to try it, it will cost you $300 because you'll need to buy a mic. Yeah. I have a Yeti Blue. Yeti X Blue.
Take notes. No.
Yeah, so get the Yeti Blue X. It's a great piece. I literally hung an old blanket in a corner of my room and nailed it to the wall with a stand. And so then I stand in the back corner of my bedroom and you record. The worst that will happen is you'll lose $300 in a month of your life. Because if you get to the end and you screw it up, you're like, well, this sucks. I'm done. And you walk away. I lost $300 in a month of my life because by the end of the month, I had learned enough that I had to go back and re-record my first book again. because I had screwed all the files up and realized what I'd done wrong and started fixing it. So I got to go back and start over. So I did, and it was worth it. So that's what it'll cost you to do it by yourself as a test. Is you'll lose a month because you really got to take time to figure it out, and it's a ton of work. If you want, so like, how many words is your? How many words is your?
You're talking me into this so much.
Great, I know, right? How many words is your book?
106,000.
Okay, cool. So, audiobooks run about 9,000 to 10,000 words per hour.
Okay.
Depending, like I'm talking fast right now. This is easily 10 to even 11,000 words.
Yeah.
Per hour. So you figure that out for your hour.
Class. We're switching this over to now the audiobook masterclass. So no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, 5-minute masterclass. So you'll spend 6 hours for every hour of finished, if not more, for every hour of finished. So you'll spend an hour recording, that hour, more like an hour and a half, because you're going to cut some. It's going to take you 4 hours of just going through and culling, and then you got to listen to it again. So that's the time sink, is you're going to spend a lot of time building that. If you go and hire an audiobook narrator, you can get an audiobook narrator for $150 an hour per finished hour. But I know that one very well-known audiobook narrator is like $10,000 an hour. And I know if you do it like through ACX, it's usually around $400 per finished hour, but ACX will often pay the author for you and then take a bigger cut. So you can make deals that will help you cut it up. I sit right around the middle with my rates, but it's an investment. It's just a matter of whether it's worth your sweat and blood or whether you want to spend your money for someone else's sweat and blood.
Yeah. So far, it's been all my own.
Tell us about your main character so we know what we'd be listening to.
This is too hard. It's too hard.
You can do this.
I know. No, this is like the first time I've actually talked about my main character, other than like, she's cool. She likes sword. No. So, real quick background on the world, because of course I couldn't just like use anything that's existing. It is basically my own creation, the world of elves, but they're not necessarily Tolkien elves. These are slight variation on like a drow. So instead of white hair, they all have dark hair, different shades of blue, stuff like that. And then that's Black Laren, and then there's Shay that are pink flesh. They have these rosy colored Shay marks, as I like to call them, that are almost like birthmarks that run down the sides of their bodies. And my main character, Ray, or Ramian Starling, she is a Shay, elite warrior. And as you get into the story, you learn that she didn't necessarily want to be that. Her stepmother forced her into that. But because she's badass I probably should not. She's awesome.
No worries. This is
all right.
You're good.
She ended up excelling to basically become one of the most renowned warriors in the Shay army, as she's battling against the Black Laren in this 30-year war that you kind of don't necessarily understand what's going on at the beginning of the book. And where you start, she's kind of stepped back. She's home briefly, I guess. That's where I'm plopping you in the middle of this. And just thinking about whether or not it even makes sense. Like, who is her enemy? Why? And gripping, or just definitely trying to figure out whether or not she should even be doing this. She's terrified at the same time. These enemies just terrify the crap out of her. So it's almost like she's awesome, but it's because she's so freaking scared that she has to get in there and survive, basically. So that's Ray. She's also very guilty. Her personality is a very guilty personality. So you definitely see her trying to figure all that out at the very beginning. And that's one of my main characters.
So it sounds like she's a very tortured soul. But she's also a strong person. I think it's I liked that it was one of those characters where they're sort of tough, but there's more to them on the inside. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. like, I guess very, very outwardly badass, but on the inside, she's very much like, oh God, I don't know if I should even be doing this. Like that kind, like very, I don't know. It was an interesting character to work with, considering she's one of my first. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I really loved about her is when I read her, it's how I imagined I would probably be if I had to be in that situation. Like on the
right?
inside, going, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing right now?" But then,
but on the
all right,
outside,
I'm a fight more than a flee person.
yeah,
So at the same time, it makes sense to me. But it's interesting to see, where she's going to end up in the end if her inside ends up matching her outward fake
yeah.
confidence.
Because there's a lot of, for at least in my mind, there's a lot of her trying to mask, like she's constantly trying to mask that inside feeling like, oh, I can't show this fear. I can't let people know that I am literally burning inside with terror. But
Yeah. Oh, love all the different characters from me this year so much. So I didn't mention this earlier, but we've got a lot of people on right now, so I'm going to go ahead and
Awesome.
say it now. The links to the books are in the description box. So if you want to grab their books, grab them, as well as Mark Lawrence's list, which is the full official list. Mark's the organizer for the Self-Published Fantasy Blog Off. If this is your first live panel, I think I saw a comment on Twitter saying this is your first one seeing. So Mark Lawrence organizes this for free every year for authors, and I am only involved as much as being a participant. I am not affiliated with Mark, but I do think you should go check out Mark's blog and follow it to get all the news, because that's where it's going to hit first.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually in Mark's SPFBO Facebook group. So Kira, you'll see it relatively fast. And then the Discords start buzzing not very long after. Most of the time the Discords know it before I know it. And so people are like, congratulations, or I'm so sorry. And you're like, what? What did I do?
I will confess I was refreshing the page, like, because I didn't know if it was something that like you would get an email or something. I had no idea. So I'm like, refresh, because I had no idea.
I couldn't believe he did it so fast. He did a good job. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
that, and like, I guess he had to go back through and just make sure everyone qualified then. Yep. And it seemed like he like blitzed through that super fast. So
yeah. I don't know who his team is, but I think he's got some others who are helping him.
I hope.
Yeah. And then there's Zach Argyle's website does have up his infographic, which is just fantastic. He puts up a side scrolling of everybody who's in it, and then as they get cut, they go darker, and then he'll push the semifinalists or finalists to the front of each blog group, so you can go through and very quickly get links directly into that one. But it'll go directly into to their, I think he's got it going straight to their Amazon this year. So to go straight to their Amazon to check it out with their most updated covers. So it's a cool way to see all of the covers at once.
Yeah, because there's some nice covers.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, and he's got it filterable, so you can filter by KU. You can filter by which ones are on audiobook, which is super nice. Mine is not on audiobook or KU, so I'll just save everybody from looking there.
Same.
I decided to go wide this year with mine. Cool. So
yeah, and I went the other direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. The great thing about SPFBO is there's so many new eyes on your book, so many new potential readers to connect with, and you're just trying to find the right mix. Last year I wasn't wide, but I did have an audiobook, but I didn't really see a whole lot of uptick in audio. So I was like, okay, well this year I'm going to enter Splitting Dawn, and Splitting Dawn is wide and it's 99 cents wide. So hopefully it's more accessible to everybody because it's a first in series. But I've also got a collection of novellas that are both a mix of prequel and then what happens between Splitting Dawn and the next book. So there's 5 of those in one single collection.
Cool.
And that way there's more to read too. Because one of the things I did see a lot last year from readers and in reader reviews was being leery of, when am I going to get the next book? Is the series going to get completed? So when it comes to you guys, Kira, I'll let you start. What can readers expect from you? You've mentioned this is a series. So what can they expect from you for more of your writing?
So some people that follow me on Instagram and that know me in person know that I quit my job in April, my job of 16 years. Not necessarily because I wanted to write full time, just because of I'm old and it was way too stressful for me at this point in my life. But because of that, I've been focusing a lot more on writing. So I'm trying to, I had already written book 2. I guess that's the other thing. I finished it last year. I'm apparently a very fast drafter. I did not know that that was a thing, but apparently when you can get a book drafted in 2 months, that's fast. So I finished the first draft last year. I'm actually sending it out to alpha readers on Monday. I cannot confirm that it is happening, but I am really hoping that I get it out before the end of the year. And I will probably be drafting book 3 this summer while it's with beta readers, because that's how I did book 2 while book 1 was with beta readers. I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? And then there it is. So, and then I have too many other story ideas. So at this point, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to focus on writing. And I'm going to start pulling some of these plots that I started years ago and looking through what I have. So there's definitely more to come from me. I owe it to myself and to my dad and my family. And really my mom now, because she read my book. She reads like one book every 12 years, and she read my book, and now she's like, you have to finish this. I owe it to them to finish.
Wait 12 years to read it? I mean, are you pushing me to do something for 12 years?
No, just I was
all the love
she was reading it, and I was like, what's going on? She's like, I feel so left out. I'm having FOMO. I have to read it. And I'm like, you do not read. What are you doing? And then like a couple of days later, she's like, I finished your book. Where's book 2? And now she calls me every once in a while, and she's like, what are you doing right now? Are you working on book 2? So
good.
It's coming, and hopefully sooner than later. So
yeah. So exciting. And seriously, all the love to your mom for reading your book.
Yeah, right? I mean, I knew my dad was like one of the first people to read like a super dumpster fire draft. And he was like, this is great. But my mom, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's not a chicken soup for the soul. Or no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Those were the last things I think she read. Remember when those were popular?
Dark Lord's soul.
There you go.
Title for you. Chicken soup for the Dark Lord's soul.
There's the name for your cozy.
Oh man.
See, I cannot write a cozy to save my life, but if somebody else wants a title, take it and run.
You know, I had a lot of ideas since reading Legends and Lattes a couple of years ago. I was like, I could write a cozy, but I kept bouncing off of it, and I needed to be right. I didn't want to do it just because. And then this one ended up being just, I was like, what if? Because we were watching All Creatures Great and Small, like, and then I sat down and started writing over a weekend, and it just kept coming. So, yeah.
That's awesome, though.
What are you gonna do?
You know? I think I've tried cozy, and I can't.
You, Andrew, you've got The Deathless Beast was the first in an amazing series, which is still in progress, right?
Yes.
And then
book 4 is with my betas right now.
Not too long ago either.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up here, but Thrice's Fourscored is the sequel to Thrice, and then I'm drafting slowly the third one, which is Fife and Drum. I'm hoping to have that for Christmas, and it is going to be a 4-book arc now. So that'll be the end of Needle and Leaf story when I write number 4. There'll be some prequels and maybe some other things, but that's their story. Is just be 4 books. It was going to be 3, and then a longer 3 wasn't looking good, and so I decided to split it into a better, manageable set of 4. But Deathless Beast, the 4th book. So Deathless Beast, Bone Shroud, Gloves of Eons, and now Dread Knight is coming out. Will be coming out probably September. So that's it. That is with betas right now, and then it'll go to my editor in a couple weeks, and then I'll start the audiobook, and I might do a kick. I'm going to do a Kickstarter in August for hardbacks for all 4 of them, and new covers for them, and they're looking pretty awesome. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. I'm very excited. And then to answer your actual question, Collation will be 8 books. It'll be 2 sets of 4. I'm going to take a break and do probably a prequel trilogy and then I'll come back to the second half of the story in a year or two. More like 2.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about the prequel.
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
And Kira, I think you would probably really like The Deathless Beast as that first book, and it would probably hook you. It's sort of got some darkish elements, but then it's also got the hope that you'd expect in an epic, and it's really top-notch fighting and everything too. It's like, yeah,
excellent.
Very much more on the noble dark spectrum than grimdark.
Yeah.
See, I need to learn about all these things because I'm so new to the writing world that I'm like, I don't even know what genre I fit into.
Okay.
Is this...
Nobody really knows what noble dark means.
I was going to say noble dark. What is this?
I just found out about noble bright last year in the panels, and when I heard it, I was like, ha ha! There we have so many of the books that I've loved all these years.
Yep. and then don't forget Grimbright. Or
I'm like, what?
Yeah, Grimbright. Grimbright's the other one.
It's like, what flavor? So essentially, what flavor of tone do you like your book to have, light or dark? Mm-hmm. And then, do you want it to have a happy ending or not? Yep. And then pile those together. Yep. So, like, I personally either like a very dark story with a super happy ending,
right,
or a lighter story with a bittersweet or sad ending. If I'm reading for fun.
I like all endings and all no.
Yeah, you like to read all the books.
I will say that I struggle with writing anything other than dark. So definitely there's definitely going to be some dark things coming. Awesome. Sorry. This series, not to spoil anything, but there will be a happier ending. Happier. We'll say happy to bittersweetish. There you go.
Yeah.
As I look around, I'm like, oh crap.
make sure your mom's not listening. Yeah.
Mom's like, well, now I'm definitely gonna wait 12 years.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I will tear you apart. And then hopefully put you back together with mostly Band-Aids, couple Band-Aids. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, well, this has been so much fun just chatting with you guys about SPFBO and books and audio books. I really do wish you all the best. I hope to see so many of the books this year. I'm like, I want to see you in the semifinalists. I don't know how to pick this year, but it is such an honor to be here with you guys. Every year looking at SPFBO, I just think it's the greatest way to go as an author, because if you lose among the best, and if you make it up, you made it up among the best. Mm-hmm. So wishing you all the best of luck. And if you're watching, again, you can grab their books in the description box. And if you're wanting to meet more SPFBO authors, this is panel number 15. We've had 14 prior panels. We have another 6 or so left to go between now and the end of the day Saturday. So you can subscribe to the channel and catch up on all the books, and your TBR list will probably be sad, but that's okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.